Entire cities lay in ruins. Millions were displaced, and survival became the first challenge of the post-war world.
Railways carried not soldiers now, but civilians, searching for homes that no longer existed. The old political order had collapsed. Europe was no longer whole, and its future was undecided. Governments faced impossible questions: how to rebuild, how to govern, and how to prevent another collapse.
Across the Atlantic, the United States emerged from the war stronger than ever before.
American industry remained intact, productive, and ready to shape the post-war world.
In the East, the Soviet Union stood victorious, having paid an immense human cost.
The scars of war were deeper here, shaping a nation hardened by survival. Two powers now stood above the ruins of the old world, each carrying a different vision for the future. The future of the world was now being discussed across conference tables, not battlefields. Agreements were written with careful language, but behind every word stood deep uncertainty. Europe was no longer a single space. It became a divided landscape, shaped by occupation and influence. In the East, new political systems were quietly taking hold, changing everyday life. In the West, rebuilding became a race against time, poverty, and instability. The United States began stepping into Europe's recovery, offering resources on an unprecedented scale.
The Soviet Union, too, moved to secure its sphere, shaping the region according to its own vision.
Two paths began to emerge, each promising stability, each demanding loyalty.
Across the world, people followed these changes through headlines, unaware of how deeply they would shape the future.
What began as recovery was slowly becoming competition. For ordinary families, the post-war world was measured not in speeches, but in meals and survival. Education resumed amid ruins, as societies tried to rebuild not just cities, but futures.
Information spread quickly, but clarity did not. Headlines reflected a world still searching for direction.
Behind closed doors, governments measured recovery in numbers, resources, and influence.
In the East, political life followed a different rhythm, shaped by centralized authority. Democracy and control stood side by side, offering sharply different visions of stability. Economic recovery remained fragile, but signs of movement slowly appeared.
In the East, rebuilding followed strict plans, prioritizing order over speed.
Publicly, cooperation continued. Privately, suspicion grew.
Messages between capitals became more cautious, each word carefully chosen. The unity of wartime victory was slowly dissolving. For many, the war ended without triumph, only exhaustion.
The world stood between recovery and rivalry.
Normal life returned slowly, shaped by shortages and uncertainty. In the East, order replaced chaos, but at the cost of personal freedom.
Education became a battleground for ideas shaping the next generation.
In the East, ideology was taught with discipline and purpose.
Words became tools, shaping loyalty and belief.
Debate remained public in the West,
even as fears lingered.
In the East, security took priority over discussion. What had once been temporary arrangements now hardened into lasting divisions.
In the United States, leadership was no longer optional. It was expected.
In the Soviet Union, survival shaped every decision.
American policymakers began linking Europe's recovery to their own national security.
instability abroad was no longer seen as distant. It was a direct concern. In Moscow, leaders watched these developments carefully, reading intention behind every move.
Borders became lines of control, not just geography.
In the West, movement symbolized hope. Slow, fragile, but real.
Leaders spoke of unity, even as divisions deepened.
Symbols began carrying more weight than words.
The world was no longer simply rebuilding. It was choosing sides. What followed would shape decades, not years. Journalists began sensing that the peace might be temporary.
In the East, information was measured, filtered, and controlled.
In the West, discussion remained open, even as uncertainty grew.
Behind the scenes, messages carried concern rather than confidence. Security planning returned to the center of Soviet thinking.
In Washington, preparation quietly replaced optimism. Borders that once felt temporary began to feel permanent. The rivalry forming in Europe would not stay there. Leaders spoke of cooperation, but stood increasingly apart.
The Cold War had not yet begun, but its shape was already visible.
Reconstruction gained momentum, but stability remained fragile.
In the East, recovery followed rigid direction. Political choice remained visible in the West. In the East, political direction was firmly guided. Control symbolized Tsarai's security.
Ideology was reinforced with discipline.
Questions replaced confidence.
Certainty was enforced through messaging.
Military planning shifted toward long-term assessment rather than immediate action.
Security became doctrine.
The post-war world was organizing itself along new lines.
For ordinary people, history unfolded quietly. A new generation inherited an uncertain future.
Dialogue continued, but trust did not.
Lines drawn for convenience, hardened into divisions. The balance of power had shifted permanently.